All right, Brad, good to be back, mate. Good to be back. It was my fault last week that we were off. I didn't want to risk divorce on the honeymoon, mate, so, I think it can go that way. Better off to start on the right path, but I actually didn't think it was a great slate anyway. I think obviously the late game, the Bills and the Rams kind of saved it. It was kind of a shitty week in different parts, but punting wise, didn't have my best week. I didn't have my biggest or my best one. Pat Fryermuth got me there. John Smith was an absolute killer, given he only got his targets in the overtime period of 44 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, and I backed him 50 plus. But yeah, it's on to next week, mate. We won't worry too much about last week, and let's start with Monday Night Football, Brad. We're just going to jump ahead. The Bears are getting 7 points in Minnesota. 44 is the total. Sam Darnold is looking very good. Kevin O'Connell, best play caller in the league, right? Ben Johnson. It's the
Yeah. I'd give it to KOC just because he's the head coach as well. Ben Johnson's not. He's got less responsibility, isn't he? He's got more time to draw up plays to Penei Sewell throwing the ball.
Your angle here, mate, first half in the Vikings.
I'm sure people are bored of me talking about Vikings in the first half, but they did cover it last week. So the angle here is kind of where you started on, actually, is coaching, right? I think this is maybe as big a coaching mismatch as you could possibly get. So Kevin O'Connell, elite play caller, best in the league, as you say, maybe. Definitely up there with what he's done with Sam Darnold this year, what he did last year with Nick Mullins. And then obviously Brian Flores on the other side, also probably a top 3, 5. Either way, probably the best coaching staff in the league, and you can see that, they're 11-2, something like that. They overperformed last year. They're consistently elite coaching. And now you income the Bears, who have fired all of their coaches, right? So they fired the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, 3 weeks ago now, promoted Thomas Brown, who was the passing game coordinator. They promoted him. But then they fired the head coach and the defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. So now Thomas Brown is the head coach. He's trying to draw up plays. He's calling all of the players on the phone, being like, what do you want from me? But while he's calling 53 players on the roster, he's not drawing up a script that Kevin O'Connell is. And I think you saw that last week at halftime. The 49ers had 300 yards to 2, something like that. We saw it with the Jets. You take out a key defense on that for the Jets. It was a key defensive play caller, and the Jets defense has been pretty garbage ever since. Because even if it's just now the backup DC is now the head coach, he's not crafting the game plans. You just lose a brain. The Bears have lost 2 brains. They weren't well coached to begin with. And we saw last night the 49ers are not special at all, right? They just scored 6 points, and the Bears made them look like world beaters. And I think that is the Bears. I think the Bears are not a functional NFL team at the minute, just given that brain drain at the top. And I think, as we've said a lot of times, the best way to get a coaching mismatch is in the first half, in the script. Thomas Brown's not got time to do a bloody script, right? So, I think this is a good bet. I like this.
Brian Flores probably throw a lot of funny, exotic, blitzy kind of stuff at Caleb Williams, and it could get kind of dicey. I still don't think that. I think with good coaching and probably a solid off season, though, when they get a new head coach, and maybe he obviously has probably plenty of a ceiling there. They have good receivers, but I think they'll mess up enough things here for them to get them.
Yeah, one more thing. So last week, the defensive coordinator, I can't remember his name now, but it was the first time he's ever called plays. And that went as well as you would expect against Shanahan, say 300 yards in the first half, and then they turned it down. Again, it's going to be the second time he's called plays, this time against Kevin O'Connell. And the Bears, maybe they've stopped trying, maybe it's the lack of defensive coordinator, but over the last month of the season, dead last in the NFL, 8.6 yards per attempt, third last in quick pressure rate, 4th worst in EPA, and just generally terrible. So, I don't know. To me, the Vikings just do what they want, and maybe it's first half points as well. First quarter -0.5, stuff like that. I think they just bash them early.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold, to be fair to him, is looking good. And that just says a whole pile about coaching really, really does matter in this league, and a proper offensive play caller. Go for it. One
more thing. And this is, again, we've spoken a little bit about Sam Darnold being sensitive to pressure, especially without his left tackle. It's a backup left tackle, Cam Robinson, who they signed. And so you saw no pressure again. Well, Falcons last week, bad pressure team. He scores 5 touchdowns and 340 yards. As we just said, Bears 3rd worst in the league last month pressure rate. So Sam Darnold to those two receivers against the slightly banged up Bears secondary again should be chaos.
Good stuff. First half, Vikings -3.5, 1.9 currently at matchbook.com. Speaking of which, Matchbook, very good NFL product this year. They have a bet builder product, and you can also bet a lot of the player props I'm going to discuss later in the show on this as well by just adding it as a single in the bet builder tab. Within that, they also have a really good sign-up offer. You can bet 50 and get 50 and use the bonus code POD50, POD50 when signing up to avail of this offer. Full terms and conditions can be found on the matchbook.com homepage under the promotions tab. Very good offering this year from Matchbook. I do say so myself, Brad. It's been a long time. I do not know how long or who was against, but the Panthers are favorite against the Cowboys, which says a lot about the Panthers and also says a lot about the Cowboys. But the Panthers' upward curve continues. They covered, I thought, quite comfortably last week, given they were getting 13.5, 14 at different points. And Bryce Young looks like a functioning NFL quarterback. His receivers, though, are really bad. But one that he likes, and he liked them last year as well, was Adam Thielen. And you can back him 50-plus receiving yards against a pretty porous Cowboys secondary who've given up a lot of yards in previous weeks. I'm not going to compare Adam Thielen to Jamar Chase and what he did Monday night, by the way. That's not even going to happen. But he is a good safety blanket for Bryce Young. Last week, 9 catches, 102 yards on 11 targets. And now, in the last 2 weeks, he's 17 catches for 201 yards and a touchdown on 21 targets against the Bucs and the Eagles. So give me all the Adam Thielen this week at 182, 50-plus receiving yards, and that price is only going one way. It ain't coming back. Dave Canala is good coach as well, Brad. Like you saw what he did with Baker Mayfield as well and the kind of redemption last season. And, you know, we thought Bryce was out the door, but they have a pulse, the Panthers. They're not awful. You're on mute, by the way, Matt, just before you go.
Sorry. No, they're not awful at all. Like the defense is playing hard. They switched it up, started playing a lot more man, seemed better. But Bryce, just watching him move, you can tell that he's confident. You know, like,
yeah,
I don't know, if it's someone like Josh Allen, when he breaks the pocket, he's like not jogging, but he's fluid, he's relaxed, he's just confident, and you can just see it dramatically. And I think they're going to batter the Cowboys to be.
There you go. Back a few Carolina Alls that we ever think we'd see today, this season especially. Speaking of potential batterings here, mate, next one I want to look at is the Ravens and the Giants. Giants getting 16 points. That is the biggest spread this year. I can't remember 16. We've had 12 and 13s and 14s last week, but yeah, they're getting 16, and you come back and nearly at even money at Matchbook, just under even money at 199. 42.5 is the total, and the vast majority of that total is going to come from the Ravens offense. But before I get into my player prop with Tyrone Tracy, these big lines in general, Brad, they do tend to go with the underdog here, but this could be one, we were talking pre-recording, that you think potentially the Ravens might actually cover this number.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is that, well, obviously it's 16-point favorite, so it's silly. It's kind of redundant to say the matchups favor the Ravens, but the Danny DeVito's not an NFL quarterback. Tommy DeVito. They're on 3 backup offensive linemen. Two. I think it's definitely 2 backup tackles. I think the left guard is out as well. So they're going to get mauled up front. They've got no, like, Dexter Lawrence is out, and he was doing a good part of the Giants' defense. The corners are terrible now. The defensive line are terrible. And then big favorites offer by historically do better. I don't necessarily know why that would be, especially road favorites. I don't know if you're more focused. The travel's not an issue at all. I don't know why, but historically that's been the case. So if ever I was going to back a 16-point favorite, it would be this one, but I've not done it.
Optimum spot, man. I love it, yeah. If I see anyone backing minus 16, a big one, it's just such a big. I get it. I know what you're saying, but it's such a big number. Where I think there's a player prop angle here, and this is one a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if people remember that Tyrone Tracy receiving yards, it got up somehow. I can't remember who they were playing, but it got up and the same line, 20-plus receiving yards of 198. Tommy, not Danny DeVito, a hell of a check down artist. Drew Lock was doing it last week as well. You can't really run against this Ravens defense anyway. So I think if Trace is going to have a good game and outside neighbors, he's probably their best offensive player. is the angle here. I kind of forgot actually a few weeks ago. Someone brought it up to me recently. He was actually played receiver at Iowa. He did 1 year on the transfer to Purdue, I think, and that was his year as a running back. So he should be utilized a lot more than what he has been. But last week saw a huge uptick in the passing game usage. He had a 17% target share, and yeah, I think he'll. This is potentially the only way they have any success moving the ball. Look, he'll look for neighbors as well. I think the Ravens secondary has tightened up in recent times. It's still not elite by any means in comparison to some of the better secondaries in the league. But yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of check down here. There's going to be a bit of playing catch up a lot here as 16-point underdogs, and Tyrone Tracy 20+ receiving yards is my play there. But I by the way, I love this split on Sunday night where we have the 5 games to start at 9:25. None of this 9:05 nonsense, and we have 7 games in the 6 o'clock. Absolutely perfect. I love it, and it's the great time of being in December. No more bye weeks as well. So there's 2 really good games in the 9:25 slot. One we're going to cover first is the Steelers, the Battle of Pennsylvania. The Steelers at the Eagles. Steelers getting 5 points plus money, 2.04 matchbook.com. 43 is the total. And Brad, it's unders angles all the way for you here, mate. Full game and halftime, and Vic Fangio defense with the Eagles. No George Pickens. I think it's probably a long shot that he plays. And yeah, it's unders all the way. 43 is the main line to begin with.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm excited about this one. This is the best offensive line in the NFL, Eagles against the best defensive line in the Steelers. So yeah, let's start with when Pittsburgh has the ball. So we know that under Russ, what they want to run the ball, then they want to throw deep. And this stat comes from our old pal Judah. If we're just looking at EPA, Russ has added about 50 points via the deep ball, and he's actually lost 10 expected points on every other play. So if you take away the deep ball, he's rubbish. What do the Eagles do under Vic Fangio? Like the defense is designed to stop the deep ball. They're 4th best in the NFL EPA versus the deep ball. And then obviously this is all with George Pickens. Take George Pickens out, and the Steelers are 31st in offensive success rate versus 17th with. Now, and obviously even when he's in there, not super successful. But again, they're not designed to be super successful. But you take him out and suddenly they are the second worst offense in the league. So I think the only way the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball is stick 3 tight ends on the field and run it for 4 yards a carry. Because otherwise you've got Mike Williams and is it Calvin Austin is the other receiver against an elite Eagles secondary. It's not going to work.
Forgetting about Van Jefferson, man. Seriously.
I am forgetting about Van Jefferson, to be fair. So Pittsburgh aren't scoring, right? So Eagles got the ball. Now, the Eagles, obviously they score a lot of points. Hurts is a bit of a mess. I mean, AJ Brown called him out last week, didn't he? He said, what's wrong with the offense? Passing, because Hurts looks bemused a lot of times. And I don't know. I wonder whether he misses Goddard a lot. Like a lot of times, if his first read isn't there, he just dumps it off to Goddard for 5 yards and it sort of keeps them on schedule. So I think he struggles without him. So it's basically, do I think the Eagles are going to be super efficient rushing the ball to take us over this total? And then you look at their schedule, the hardest to their easiest offensive schedule or easiest schedule of defenses faced is the Eagles. The hardest defense they faced this year is the Packers, which was back in week 1, I think, when they played in Brazil on that grass where no one could get a pass rush. So you can probably get rid of that. And as I say, Steelers' defensive line is Brandon Thorne's got them the best in the NFL. I think most people would agree that's the best defensive line in the NFL. So I don't think you're going to see this ridiculous 5 yards of carry every time that they've had all year long with Saquon. And then the last thing the Steelers do, they're the best in the NFL against the quarterback rush. They've allowed 9 quarterback scrambles all year long, which is 8 better than anyone else. They allowed 0 scrambles to Lamar when they played him. They allowed 0 scrambles to Jaden Daniels when they played him. So what Hurts does, he looks for his first read, it's not there. Then he sort of scrambles out the back of the pocket. But he's going nowhere against this Steelers defense. So I don't think the Eagles score either. And I can kind of see this ending like 13-10. Now, you can do the full game under 43. I think that's good. You can also do first half under 21.5, which I like because these two are they're even worse in the first half. Everyone knows about the Eagles.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about the Eagles' first quarter problems. And the Steelers are kind of similar. They're much better in the second half for whatever reason. So I think that might be even better, the first half under.
You remember last season, we talked about I think there was like nearly every other week there was a wide receiver tirade. One of these, I want the ball, give me the ball. My quarterback isn't giving me the ball. The offensive coordinator isn't designing plays to get me the ball. But AJ Brown was one of the more nuclear ones that I had seen, and I think they're all flocking to his locker every day this week as well to get a soundbite. But more often than not, and this is pure narrative street here, right? But more often than not, last year, the targets for all those receivers, I think CeeDee Lamb was one at one stage. Jamar Chase definitely went off on one early in the season. You saw his returns in the last couple of weeks. It's just this like kind of alpha thing that the quarterback said, fuck it, I'll just throw the ball to him. We'll design plays together. And to be fair to Brown, he is a quality player that, but I mean, look, his matchup's going to be tough enough if Joey Porter Jr. is picking him up. But he's going to be a popular play this week, Brad, on the player prop side of things. 90 plus at the moment is 2.2. That's a lot of yards in a game that we struggle to see where Hurts is getting that much success down the field.
Yeah, Kellen Moore, the OC, did come out and say, yeah, we will draw up more plays with Brown as the first read. But
that's fine, but it's still
Jalen's got to throw it to him, and he can't really.
They're not playing the Jags here, I know.
He's not like Jalen's not suddenly going to become Peyton Manning, reading it out and delivering it on time in the schedule of plays. He throws a lovely deep ball, and he's very athletic. So it's tough.
So to summarize, two bets there, both unders angles, full game 43.0. Which come back at 192. I think Brad, you said it preferred, if you had to pick one, you'd prefer the first half under 21.5 or a key number, obviously, at 193. You prefer that one, mate,
yeah?
Just one player prop, one angle on this side. So obviously, I'm taking it that Pickens is out, just going off Tomlin's press conference. I think the Friday injury report, which we'll get in the next few hours, will be kind of key here. But I think the hamstring injury for Pickens is worse than it was envisioned. You could look at Pat Freiermuth's receiving line again. It's very similar to last week, high 30s. But I think the angle I want to look at is a guy that's been worked back into the Arthur Smith offense, Jaylen Warren, over 17.5 reception yards at 1.9. The Eagles' run defense, as you touched on, Brad, is tough, and it is, a pretty big Fangio, obviously, terrific defense coordinator. But the last 5 weeks, they've actually given up, they're number 6 in terms of receptions given up to running backs, and they've given up 24 in the last 5 weeks. And I think Warren is going to be worked more into this offense here, and he's a bit of a burner, to be fair. This is kind of one of these ones, a screen or a kind of a, one of those dump offs from Rust, and he's a burner, and 17.5 receiving yards does not seem out of reach. So Jaylen Warren over 17.5 receiving yards at 1.9 for me in this one. I think this is the game of the week. It's the highest total, 54. The Bills at the Lions. Bills getting 2.5. You can back them at 228. I'm going to give a player prop in a minute, and when you hear the name of this guy, you will not be surprised because he's one of my favorites since last year as well. But give me your kind of steer on this one. It's a high total of 54. But the Bills last week on the defensive side of the ball, they were poor. But geez, when Josh Allen has to play hero ball, Brad, he's different gravy, isn't he?
He's Superman.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's really good. 54 is a high total, though, bro. But I don't think it'll be given. Detroit are actually quite good against the run. The Bills are going to have to pass the ball here anyway. But I don't know if I'm running to back the under, even though it is a pretty huge number.
No, what I can see playing out is Lion. We know about the Lions script. We bang on about that every week. Top 2 basically in every first quarter, first half metric. And they've had a little bit of extra time to prepare with Ben Johnson, as you were talking about earlier, how good a play caller he is. So I feel like the Lions come out. I'd say the weakness of the Bills is they're light. They're light and they're built to stop the pass. And we've seen when they play a heavy team, with a good offensive line who will run straight at them, someone like the Ravens, they just get battered. They got battered against the Ravens, even against the Rams a little bit last week. And so I've got the little stat here. Bills last 5 games, dead last in success rate allowed. So in short, I think the Lions are going to score their points, especially early. So I think maybe they get out to a nice lead. And then, as you say, it's going to be Josh Allen hero mode. So I quite like Josh passing yards, Josh rushing yards, which is 39.5 currently, maybe Josh touchdown. And I struggle to see how this stays under. who because what the Lions also do, they play a lot of man. They play the most man in the NFL. So if you're turning your back to Josh Allen, he's going to take off. He's also getting his receivers back. Kincaid's missed the last month or so. He's back. And I think Keon Coleman is going to play as well.
Keon Coleman should be back.
Yeah. And so he's their man beater as well. He's the guy they turn to most often against man. And obviously Lions still fairly injured, not as bad as they were last week, but still missing sort of key linebackers and stuff. So I think this might be a barn burner.
I can give you a 7-1 Josh Allen bet builder here. You touched on the rushing yards to hit 40, passing yards to hit 280. Josh Allen score anytime 7-1 8.0 at matchbook.com.
Did he do that last week? He probably did that last week, right?
I think he did, yeah. Oh, yeah, easily. Yeah, so you know what? He had three rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. I think he definitely had 400 passing yards as well. Yeah. And like the Rams secondary, I wouldn't say the Lions is massively different in any way. Like, you know, that is their weakness. You can throw on the Lions. They've allowed the second most receiving yards per game, and that's why I like Khalil Shakir. Now, you see, I don't want to get into the habit of chasing a guy off the back of a big performance, right? And you made the point that Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid are back this week, and they weren't there last week, obviously. I think Coleman is someone that's probably going to eat more into Cooper's yardage. Cooper had probably one of his bigger games for the Bills last week. But I think Shakir, in terms of against this secondary, and he's a bit of a yak king. Like, he's not big, but he runs out the slot, and they design enough up for him that, you know, he's going to get plenty of looks, and it's a 54-point total, and he's 60-plus receiving yards, and it's even money, and it's Khalil Shakir, and it's Josh Allen. I've drafted him in every single bloody fantasy team I have this year, probably before I should have, so I'm a big fan, and I think this is just one of these games that he pops potentially as well, and yeah, you know, you could pair this with 5 or 6 receptions as well, maybe go up to 70 or 80 and see where you go from that and get a much bigger price than even money. That's what I'm thinking there, man. It should be a good game, Brad. It's definitely the bet builder game. And also we on our previous show before we missed last week, because there's way more options on the bet builder on matchbook.com on Sunday. So like I said in the Telegram group, you've the longest receptions, you've got the longest pass completion, longest rush, all those kind of things. And also the reception lines are up on Sunday. We're going to actually just hold off on giving those until the Telegram group. I'll put it in about 2 or 3 o'clock on Sunday, give people plenty of time. I'm telling you now, it will be for that game as well. So we're going to put it into the Telegram group. And if you're listening and you are following those along, you will know that you're getting 10 quid back on Matchbook every time they've lost. And they've lost all of them this week, year. And we missed out on one reception from Pat Freiermuth last week, and I got in ahead of the Pickens news as well, Brad, so I didn't even have to pay for it. So one reception left us down again for another big winner, but that's the joys of it. All right, mate. Anything else you want to touch on? There's one more player prop. I'm actually going to do something a bit rare here, and it's an under for me in the Chiefs and the Browns. Browns at home getting 4. Jameis Winston. You gotta love him, Brad. It's just fun watching Jameis. You know, he's all sorts of good and all sorts of bad. And Nick Chubb's rushing line. So this is a low one for a player of his caliber, but I'm thinking that Nick Chubb is potentially done this season anyway. And I think after that surgery he had in the offseason, a lot of people have flagged it with better knowledge of them than me. He's even the last few weeks he's played fewer snaps than Jerome Ford, and if they get behind there, it'll be Ford on the field because he's more the pass catcher. A shell of his former self, I would say. And I was looking at a stat here. He's only had 10% missed tackle rate this season since he came back, and 1.96 yards after contact he's averaging. And obviously the Chiefs are pretty decent against the run, 9th best in the league up against running backs in terms of yards. So Nick Chubb under 39.5 rushing yards, just under even money at 198 at matchbook.com. You wanted to talk about Colts Broncos, mate. The only other one we had. Line, so the line, the interesting market. Colts getting 4.5 in Denver, 44.5 is the total. What do you think about this one?
I'm thinking the Colts score some points, and I'd say one thing I've thought this year is that we're underrating injuries to the second cornerback. So that's part of the reason the Chiefs have fallen off so much is their second cornerback, Jalen Watson, went down, and pass defense fallen off a cliff. Just because if you think about it, and same happened with Denver. Riley Moss, second cornerback, went out. And if anyone watched the Monday night game against Cleveland, they brought in Levi Wallace and Cleveland just went after him. I think he gave up 160 yards as the nearest coverage defender.
Yeah.
And it's logical. Like, if you think about it, defense is a weak link system. If Surtain goes out, everyone goes, fuck, Surtain's the best corner in the league.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same effect if the second corner goes down, because you're still bringing in a worse corner and you just throw out the worst corner. It doesn't matter if Surtain's got the first receiver gloved up over there, because this guy's wide open. And so this is kind of the angle here. It looks like Riley Moss is going to miss again. And the Colts line team total is under 20, 19.5, depending on where you look. So I think it's either Colts plus 4.5, because that's come back. That's been sort of swinging around a week. It was open 4.5, down to 3.5. Looks like it's back out. So it's either, I think the safest is maybe just Colts team total. This is what I'm still working out the best way to play this, because I do think Bo Nix should have some success against this Colts defense, which is quite static. And obviously they've had a bye week, and Sean Payton's got 2 weeks to prepare for Gus Bradley, which is a bit of a mismatch. So maybe it's over 44.5, or maybe it's just Colts team total. One of them.
And I need to figure out who's that Colts receiver who's going to be picked up by this second cornerback. Because technically, if Downs is in the slot, I'm going to say Pittman, or it could be Pierce, or it could be one of the other ones. So
I don't know who they can't throw to.
No, exactly. But it just depends who they put on Surtain. Is like who's going to do the most damage. But I don't think they move Surtain to Downs in the slot. I don't think they do that. They'll either leave him left or right. They don't move on slot receivers generally, from what I can remember. So yeah, interesting angle. Anthony Richardson, longest completion. It's always
well, he's going to get, obviously, Vance Joseph, Broncos DC, just loves blitzing, blitzes his head off, even if he's got worse corners. He did that against the Browns. So, and Richardson, ADOT versus the blitz, 16. So he's just chucking it up as soon as he sees a blitzer coming. He's finding a single coverage and chucking it up. So longest is a look as well.
Bit of altitude too, Brad, with the ball going out there quicker. All right, let's do a recap, mate. We started with one of the Monday night games. The other one is the Falcons Raiders. Jeez, I want to watch that. Is Desmond Ridder the Desmond Ridder revenge game? Cannot wait for that. Vikings first half -3.5. Brad made an exceptionally strong case there. I like Adam Thielen 50+ receiving yards at 182. I also like Tyrone Tracy, the Giants running back, 20+ receiving yards at 198. In the Steelers-Eagles, unders angles here for Brad. Full game 43 at 1.92. First half under 21.5 at 193. I like Jalen Warren out of the backfield, 17.5 receiving yards for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 1.9. Khalil Shakir, 60+ receiving yards at 2.0. And I also like Nick Chubb under 39.5 rush yards. And we discussed Colts and Broncos. Brad may give us an update on the Telegram group, which you'll find as well, if you're not in that Telegram group, in the bio for the podcast. Brad, best bet of those, man?
Well, you could probably tell, given the enthusiasm, which I talked about, the Pittsburgh Eagles under. So let's go those guys under 21.5 first half.
Lovely stuff. I think I'm at Adam Thielen. I led off with him out of the opener, 182, 50+ receiving yards. Adam Thielen. All right, Brad, heading towards Christmas, Smith. The year's flying by. Thanks for that, mate. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show as ever, and please leave us a preferential review. If you are listening, it does get our content out to a wider audience. Best of luck with your week 15 bets, and until next week, goodbye for now.